Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the Huawei P50 Pro for an unboxing. It's been a while since we last touched a Huawei flagship. It was back in the fall of 2020 and it was the Huawei Mate 40 Pro, and here we are with the P50 Pro, the follow-up to the P40 Pro. The device stands under the sign of the figure 8 because the back camera resembles a figure 8 in this oval enclosure. We have the gold version, which is quite good looking, and in some ways it resembles the P40 Pro but a bit more refined. And as usual, it doesn't have the Play Store or Play services, but it makes good use of the app gallery and petal search and the alternative sources. Now they're calling this dual camera array. It's not actually a dual camera, it's sort of a dual module array, the dual matrix approach. Okay, the device has fired up. I've already set it up for you. I've even performed some tests, so let's start with the unboxing. Now, we don't have an actual price for the device, but my guess is that it should be around $1,200 if I were to speculate. Now, inside the box, we find the following. We start off with this metal key here, used to access the slots, and the SIM tray is at the bottom. One of the slots is used for the nano SIM and the other one for the nano memory card. Here we have the case. Let's check it out. With quite the cutout for the large camera here. And I would say that's about it. We have a test version here, so your version, the one you buy, should have a manual as well. And here we have the charger, which promises us Huawei Supercharge up to 66 watts. It's similar to what we got bundled with the Huawei Mate 40 Pro 2 years ago. 66 watts as promised. Okay, so the last accessory that you're going to get is a cable which goes from USB-C to USB-A, and this is the USB-C connector. I see that it's colored in orange. The one from the Mate 40 Pro was colored in purple. That's something I remember. We're pretty much done with the case, but let's see what we got here. So we have the version with 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, and the color is Cocoa Gold. It's not your typical gold, it's sort of like a bit more silvery than the usual gold. There are other color versions out there. There's black, and there is also white, and there's pink, believe it or not. We have glass at the back side, which is curved on the sides, gently curved. It has a mirror finish. It draws quite a bit of fingerprints. And at the front side, once again, a glass panel, and also curved towards the sides. Pretty narrow bezels, and I would like to say that it's interesting to see this black highlight all around the side of the screen. I would say the punch hole is rather small, and from what I see here, we have stereo speakers which have been separated just like Xiaomi does into this one and this one here, and we also have an infrared emitter. Now I want to get back to the design a little bit. If you want measurements, it's actually 8.5 millimeters in thickness, and the handset weighs 195 grams. Considering that nowadays phones tend to go over 220 grams, and I've seen the iPhone 12 or 13 Pro Max even getting to 240 grams, 195 is actually quite the achievement. Of course, we have glass at the front side, glass at the back side, and a metal frame in between. I'm guessing it's aluminum. Would have hurt to have stainless steel, but I guess I have to look into it. A good piece of news is that we have IP68 certification for protection against dust and also water. Now, aside from that, the device doesn't wobble on a flat surface. That's nice to see. After quite a few phones with a protruding camera, not much wobble here. Just a little bit. And the first impression when you hold the phone is that you're going to drop it on account of the glass. Actually, the protruding metal frame is quite slim and you're going to grip onto it quite well. So the grip is actually pretty nice here in spite of the initial impression. The buttons here are pretty comfy to use. They're placed in a pretty predictable manner if you're not looking. And the power button has a red accent. I almost called it orange. I think we've said enough about the build. It's obviously premium. It's a bit narrower than most flagships. It channels the design that Huawei has been using for the past 2 generations or so in the P series. The screen I keep playing with here, and by the way, let's access this browser and enter our website. Now, this screen that we have here is as usual for Huawei and as usual for a flagship. It's an OLED. a 6.6-inch OLED panel, and this one provides a resolution of 2700 over 1228 pixels, and we also have 120 Hz refresh rate, plus for gamers 300 Hz touch sampling rate, and also a special dimming feature which will protect your eyes, unlike the other devices that we have on the market. There's an interesting thing here. Once you reset the phone, the brightness will change automatically to the automatic setting, so there's that. Now we go inside the phone to see where the goods are, and by goods I mean the processor. It's an atypical choice. We have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888, the 4G version, not the 5G one, on account of the US whole thing with the blacklisting of Huawei. Anyway, Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 4G 5nm octa-core CPU with the Adreno 660 GPU. It's accompanied here by 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage, plus the nano memory slot I mentioned before. Now the battery may scare you on account of the capacity, which nowadays we've gotten accustomed to having 5000 or even 6000 mAh batteries. ASUS has that usually. Now here we have a 4360 mAh, which would worry us if we didn't already have the pretty good track record for Huawei and their phones when it comes to solid battery life out of not so big batteries. Now this handset also charges at 66 watts via wire, as I mentioned before, and I should probably also mention that it has 50 watt wireless charging, which is actually not bad, and I'm guessing that's also a bit of reverse charging here because that's the trend. For entertainment, we have stereo speakers. There's one at the bottom here, and we also have the top one here. We have a microphone here and here. Quite a few microphones, by the way. 1, 2, and 3 here. And I'm pretty sure we should also have one next to the camera. I'm seeing another hole here. Now, aside from that, for the sake of protection, we have an in-display fingerprint sensor. And in this moment, I'm unlocking the phone with my face. That's what I'm relying on. Now the sensor is placed here. It's of the optical kind and it's pretty snappy and fast. No audio jack, as you can see for yourself. And if you go quickly into the connectivity department, here you can see we have NFC. You can use the Curve app to make your payments. We have Wi-Fi 6, but only 4G on account of the lack of a 5G modem. There is Bluetooth 5.2 available here. There is GPS and an USB-C 3.1 port at the bottom side. And finally, we can talk about the cameras. I'm using a white background because I want to highlight the selfie shooter. This one here is a 13 megapixel camera in a punch hole at the top of the screen, and it gives you a 4K capture at 60 frames per second for selfies, which is actually not half bad. If you go to the back side, there's a lot to unpack. We have a quad camera here. Nowadays we're seeing more and more often dual camera, triple camera phones. It's actually rare to get to see a quad camera anymore. And if you also added the multispectral sensor, you could even call it a penta camera. But that's not quite the case. So let's take things one at a time. The bottom camera is the periscopic shooter. You can probably tell that for yourself. You can see the depth it goes at and its prisms. So this periscopic camera is a 64 megapixel shooter with f3.5 aperture and 3.5x optical zoom. It aids the device to reach 100x zoom. On the official side they're calling it 200x. They're multiplying it with the 0.8 or 0.6 zoom of the ultra-wide capture. Anyway, Leica optics is still available here, and aside from this periscopic 64 megapixel camera, we have 3 sensors here. There's the main 50 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization, laser autofocus, and f1.8 aperture. Then we have the 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera and a surprise, I would say, a 40 megapixel black and white sensor which produces fantastic monochrome shots. And we have a dual LED flash here, and we also have once again a special spectral sensor which helps with never before achieved colors. That's what they're promising here. And I would say that the phone, if Huawei were to promote it with something, it will be with the true colors. They're calling it the True Chroma display, and with the multispectral color sensor at the back, they're really focusing on delivering proper true-to-life colors. Now this camera here provides XD optics, and the special XD Fusion Pro is basically an image engine which refines and improves the details of your capture. We also have the True Chroma image engine. The interface is just as we left it on the P40 Pro and Mate 40 Pro. We got the Pro section here, which also applies to the videos, not just photos. We have the More section with monochrome, and believe me, these are some of the best shots I've taken ever. Stickers, high resolution, which means top resolution of 50 megapixels. Panorama, time-lapse, dual view, using the back and front camera at the same time. That's dual view. Snapshot, slow-mo, air lens, documents and story creator. The Pro mode you already know. You can also shoot a raw capture here. This is the video department. You have a bunch of filters like AI color, background blur, suspense, and believe it or not, Huawei has been providing background blur ever since the Mate 20 Pro, even before Samsung made it cool on the Galaxy Note 10. Here you can see the capture, 4K 60 frames per second, official video format. One thing that puzzled me, either I missed it or we cannot activate a special stabilization mode. It's just on and that's it. There's no special steady mode from what I saw over the past days. In the photo section we got the Master AI, which actually delivers. I was pretty impressed that it helped me, especially with the macros. And we also have this collection of filters. Then comes the portrait mode, then comes the night mode, and then comes the aperture. Okay, so that's pretty much it camera wise, or actually it's not, because we have a lot to explore here and a lot to photograph in order to see if it's truly as good as promised. And I think it's time to discuss the software. As you can see, this is EMUI 12. It's applied on top of Android 11 and it focuses a lot on interactivity. We have this panel here, this device plus, which connects and interconnects Huawei laptops, tablets, headphones, speakers, and more into one whole ecosystem. And you can see here the whole galaxy of devices being connected to the same hub, which is your phone. Now, aside from that, we don't have a Play Store and Play Services. We have the Huawei App Gallery, which includes tens of thousands of apps, including games, including payment apps, food delivery, ride sharing, maps apps, and so much more. And then there's also the Petal Search, which is basically a search engine, a shopping area. It delivers news, it delivers info about your flight, and sources if you want to search for top apps and APKs to install on your device. We have the My Huawei here, we have the books, health, we got Petal Maps, allowing you to move around. It actually has a few landmarks which I haven't seen on Google Maps, so that's a plus. And it actually became 1 year old recently. It's its anniversary these days. And then we have quite a few other applications which are installed here, the most useful of them being the optimization one, which I actually spotted before, but now I'm missing it. It's this one here, the optimizer, which takes care of your resources. Well, that's pretty much it. As you can see, we're using navigation, gestures, swipes, and here we have the control panel, and on this side the notifications. And the control panel includes the usual suspects like do not disturb, dark mode, wireless projection, eye comfort, and Huawei Share. Okay, I think we're about done. This is the flagship that we've been waiting for. It was unveiled last summer, if I remember correctly. It took a while to reach Europe, but it's finally here. The camera promises a lot. They're promising to deliver spectacular colors in both the dual matrix camera and this gorgeous OLED screen, which is pretty impressive to be honest. And it comes from the factory. Let's see, I'm pretty curious about that. It comes with a refresh rate set to dynamic. It changes depending on the content displayed on the screen, but you can set it to 120 Hz for a smoother animation. Okay, that's about it for the Huawei P50 Pro. You're going to learn more as we perform its review. Bye bye.